Fields Creative with Zero, the brand maverick. Before we get into it, I just wanted to thank you for following me into this tilted rabbit hole where we learn about the entrepreneur journey and all the magnificent and terrifying things that come with it. If you're an entrepreneur and you want to increase your brand exposure, network internationally, and gain insights, then follow the breadcrumbs in the show notes to my website where you can find everything you need to start your business, grow your brand, and accelerate your income today. I even have a live show every Monday that you can attend. It's free brand awareness and exposure, and you get to meet some really cool people on the show. It's such incredible value, and you don't have to pay a penny for it. Now it's time. Let's jump straight into the rabbit hole.
Thank you so much for coming on the Entrepreneur Spotlight today, Navin. It's absolutely amazing to have you here. Do you want to tell them your name, the name of your company, and a little bit about what you do?
Thank you for having me, Desiree. I love doing this sort of thing because I love spreading the word about what I do and how I help. I like to help people, and I think having conversations like this can really do that. I'm Navin Jaitley, and my business is Navin Jaitley Coaching Limited. I work with entrepreneurs and business owners, and if they have teams as well as salespeople. And I work with developing sales. I teach people how to sell. I develop the company strategy, how to get more sales in. I develop skill set because sales really is like playing a musical instrument. You have to learn certain skills to play it well, right? And the final thing what I do, and I'll explain a little bit more why I do this afterwards, is I develop people's mindset around selling. And that's what I call their inner game. So I develop a lot of the things like their confidence, their why. I help them to rewire a lot of their limiting self-belief and their negative subconscious mind programming, whether it comes to things like money. Because that's a lot of the equation that I find a lot of other sales consultants, coaches don't do. And they focus solely on just the skills and strategies, which are hugely important. But that's, that's missing a big part of the equation. So what I do is I work in all three areas through various programs and products that I have. And ultimately what I do is I help people to sell more. So I help business owners and sales teams and entrepreneurs to make more money, to make more sales, and to make a bigger impact.
That's awesome. So how does your service work?
So if you were, depending on what kind of company you are, but I have, for example, individual entrepreneurs, like solopreneurs or very small business owners working with me. And I have, for example, a group coaching program that they can join, or I do one-to-one coaching as well. And that typically is that we have a conversation. I find out their needs. I tell them, we go into more detail about what I do. And for me, it's very important about working with the right people. Because when you're a coach or consultant, look, we do great things. And I really have made some brilliant results for clients. But there is that whole saying that you can bring the horse to water, but you can't get it to drink, right? So, yeah. So I do, when I'm interviewing, we have this interview, call it an interview, and they're finding out more about me and explaining my services. I'm also trying to find out about them. And one of the things I'm always looking for is, how badly do you want it? How badly do you want to improve your sales, improve yourself, and grow your business? And if there's a right fit, then people work with me. I have online programs and courses, which is that you can work without me. You just buy my online product and it develops your mindset and skill set. Or I have my group coaching program, or like I said, my one-to-one.
Yeah.
If you're a bit of a bigger organization, you've got a sales team, because I work with all the way up to corporate, I have different programs which are more bespoke for that organization. And that's when I go in and I actually train either online or face-to-face, depending where they are, the team itself. And what I do is with the business owner or sales leaders, we also create a strategy. I can help with things. I'll give you an example. I'm working with a company at the moment who want me to develop a sales strategy for them because they've grown to a multi-million pound business, but I kind of done it without a sales strategy. And now they really want to kick on. So I developed that. I help them with creating sales processes. I'm helping them obviously train their team. They're a team of 7 salespeople. So I'm helping to train and coach them on skill set and mindset. And what I do is I'm very different in the case that I do there's a distinction between consulting, training, and coaching.
Absolutely.
Yeah. With my service, I do all three. So there is a part where sometimes I'm just training. Training is about just me passing on skills and saying, this is how you question. This is how you negotiate. This is how you do X, Y, and Z. Or this is how you can rewire your brain to become more confident, etc. Then there's the consulting, which is more me giving advice. And it's more giving advice, and it's based on what's worked for me, what other companies before. And it's more real world. It's not so much theory, more real world. And then coaching is actually, I'm a qualified performance coach. And that's really with me working with someone and asking them questions and really getting them to elicit the answers from their own mind. And that's really powerful because that's where a lot of change happens. And I find a lot of training out there and mentoring is just stuck at the very superficial level, which is why massive change doesn't happen. When you embed coaching into it as well, that's when you can go deeper and you can actually really change people's performance. So I use a combination of coaching, training, and mentoring. I have a combination of online programs, group coaching, and one-to-one coaching. I also have where I can go into companies and do something a bit more bespoke, and we discuss what that looks like with
Yeah.
teams. But like I said, I'm helping anybody who needs to grow business, needs to grow and scale their business. That's really where I come and help.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that you have a blend of consultation, coaching, and training, because that's pretty much what I do. And for a long time, I couldn't actually define what it was. And I couldn't actually find anybody else who did something similar to that, because you've got consultants who come in and consult. You've got coaches who, well, coaching has got a really bad reputation recently. You think about a coach and you're like, oh, no, thank you. But it's just like and then you've got mentors, then you've got people who do training. So it's like, try to find somebody who does all of those things, all put together in almost in one service. That's actually quite rare. So it is actually quite good that you almost do almost the sales arm of what I do as a brand consultant. That's why I branded myself the brand maverick, because what I do isn't really consulting. It isn't really strategy. It's everything else. So whereas I'm like the brand maverick, you're like sales maverick in that sense.
Well, I call myself a sales maximizer because it really is. I'm not only maximizing your sales results, but I'm
Yeah.
maximizing the person or the team's actual overall
Yes.
sales ability, which includes
Yes.
mindset, which includes skill set. I always put it down to, it's a bit of a weird analogy, but it's a bit like going and sending a soldier into battle, right? And you send them without a gun, they're not going to go very far, right? You give them a gun, but they haven't got the confidence to fire it, they're not going to go very far. So sales is a bit like that. Skills are like giving, in my analogy, a soldier a gun, right? The mindset is giving them the confidence to fire it, right? So that's why you need to work on both
Yeah.
aspects. And also, sometimes there is a place for coaching. Sometimes there's a place for training, and sometimes there's a place for consulting. Sometimes somebody does need an answer, and we can't spend half a day on asking them loads and loads of questions to get right to the bottom of it. Like sometimes they just want to know, like, what do we do in this situation? That's more when they need something they don't know before. But where coaching comes in, where it could be a decision they want to make, or where they want to change a certain way their mind thinks about things, like their relationship with rejection. Now, that's not
Yes.
something you teach or consult someone. That's where you get the coaching. See, where is that rejection? Where's that coming from? How can we rewire that in your brain?
It's almost a little bit, especially with that kind of stuff, it's a little bit like counseling in that sense, because rejection sensitivity can come from childhood. So you'll be unearthing all of that stuff as well. It is really interesting that you touch all of that stuff, because a lot of sales trainers don't do that. A lot of sales coaches don't do that. So they get you through the sales process and they almost do the mindset stuff, but they don't get into facing rejection. Where is that actually coming from? A lot of them don't do that. A lot of them shy away from that. So it is really cool that you're focusing on that, because you're taking a much deeper level, which will actually help them as individuals as well. So it's not even just sales coaching. It's almost like people coaching as well.
Well, you say that spot on, because ultimately that's what it is in anything in performance. Behind any, you look at all the athletes, you look at any high performing part of it, it's a person behind that. So this is what I mean by, and the reason I was so passionate about it is because I had lots and lots of sales training over the years when I worked in my corporate career. And a lot of it, after I got to a certain level, it wasn't really much of a game changer. And I thought, how can I make it that it really changes people's game? And you have to focus on the person. But look, you have to, again, know when to do it. If I'm training a sales team with 10 people in a room, it might not be the best time to start unearthing something in their childhood because they don't want to say it in front of people, right?
No.
So you've got to know when, okay, now this is a training session. Now this is more mentoring. Okay, this person's struggling with this. Maybe this is more of a one-to-one thing. Or what I do my one-to-one coaching service, that's a great time because I could do all those things with one person. So
Yeah.
it's also knowing when. I think there's an art to knowing when you use which of the tools. It's like a worker
Yeah.
who's got his toolbox, taking out the spanner now or taking out the screwdriver. It's the same with the coaching, training, and mentoring. And I'll give you a quick example about something that actually is I think a good story to explain the point. I had a guy who actually worked for a small company, and he was getting quite far in the sales process, as in that they were selling technology based software. He was getting to the sales, he was developing quite far, and then always at the end, it would never happen. Well, not always, but 90% of the time, the deal wouldn't go
Yeah.
ahead. So the CEO of the company was like, "Look, we've tried quite a few things with this guy, and like, he's not closing enough. And, eventually we're gonna have to get rid of him." So I was coaching the CEO personally as well around sales and developing. And I said, "I'll tell you what, we can work something out and I can do your team as well." So we did that. And I started working with this guy. And straight away, I knew this guy's problem isn't too much about sales skills. If he is taking a deal and getting it quite far, going past a few different people and persuading them and getting them on board, his sales skills are probably quite decent. He can always do with improving. And we did
Yeah.
work on ways he was questioning and positioning things. But generally, he isn't that bad at a skill level because he's going and selling into companies and getting quite far with them, just failing at the last attempt. Now, when I spoke to him, he was ethnically Korean. So his family come from Korea, right? Now, it just so happened I actually lived in South Korea for a few years, so I knew even more about the culture. But to be honest, that wasn't even that relevant, but it just helped me to work this out more
Yeah.
quickly. I knew there's something mental going on. Now, in this particular example, and I questioned him around this as well, in Korean culture, which I know, if somebody older than you or someone very senior to you, you have to act a bit subservient. You don't challenge them. You shouldn't really like get in any confrontation with them at all. The
Yeah.
best way of describing it, you become a little bit subservient. That's the culture.
That's
And then
actually same thing in Indian cultures as well.
and the same
A
in
lot of
Indian
Middle East and a lot of Middle Eastern culture as well, actually. So yeah, it is quite, I think, let's just say the east of the world, with the exception of Australia.
Yeah, it is. It really is. You're right. It's a lot of Eastern cultures, but I found that ethnically, I come from Indian background, but I found that in Korea it was like to another level of
Yeah.
this sort of observing it. So anyway, I also wanted to find out his individual situation. So I asked him certain questions, and that's where the coaching came into it. It was very apparent that, yeah, he had been brought up that you respect elders, you don't challenge them, and somebody very senior. I'll give you a shortened version of the story. So what he was finding is that when he was coming to closing these deals, well, who was he speaking to? The final decision maker were typically people who are a lot older than him and very senior, who were typically CEO or that sort of level. So what was happening in those situations is that he was basically becoming a little bit too subservient. And there is actually a theory, it's actually a book written called The Challenger Sale, which actually says that the best salespeople is who can challenge the customer's view a bit, who don't mind a little bit of tension in a conversation and a little bit of that challenge, not too much, but a little bit. He wasn't doing that. So because of something that is cultural wiring, which he wasn't even aware of that he wasn't doing, just little things he was saying or doing that were giving his power away, were making the decision maker not really trust him or believe in his product or service enough and make the deal not happen. Now, that wouldn't have been uncovered if that bit of coaching intervention hadn't happened. And what would have happened? You would have kept giving the guy more skills, which would have helped him a bit, but wouldn't have actually got rid of the underlying problem. So that's a typical example where coaching then accompanied with scale skills and adding extra skills he can do, say and do, and how he can position himself, started helping him selling. He started rapidly increasing his number of conversions. As a result, kept his job, done very well for himself, done very well for the company, made more money. So that's just an example to highlight the point.
No, absolutely. And I think a lot of people don't realize that things like that do have a massive impact on you. If you've come from an Asian background or a Middle Eastern background and you're working in a Western world, you do have to think about little things like that, even if you grew up here, you spend your whole life here, because it makes those little intricacies make part of you. And it's part of like your family upbringing and like what you would saw as a child. So it does come back to undoing in some regard what you learned as a kid as well, because that would have been a behavior that would have been learned growing up. So It's just amazing that you can now apply that to sales and it completely change someone's life, because now they're going to think, wow, I can change all of these other things that weren't working out in my life before. So, and it deepens relationships overall. It's just incredible work. So, what kind of clientele are you interested in working with?
Yeah, so like I said, there's really two types, I guess, but predominantly entrepreneurs, business owners, because they're the ones that I really feel need it the most. Because you got to remember, most people start a business because they have a passion or something they're great at. They're either great at
Yeah.
doing that. Right? Somebody's a great at being a hypnotherapist, so they start a hypnotherapy business, right? Somebody's great at creating products, so they'll create a set of product and sell it, right? Or whatever it is. But not many people have learned how to sell. And that's why you get those statistics where most businesses fail within 3 years, et cetera, et cetera. And even if they're not failing, they're definitely not maximizing what they could be doing. So I preferably, or I shouldn't say preferably, but the majority of what I'm focusing at the moment is those entrepreneurs and small business owners, whether that's them being a very small one or two-man band or woman band, or if they're a bit bigger and I can go in and help their sales team as well. So, and I do obviously go and work in the corporates as well. But if you're saying, who am I focusing on right now? But especially for the purposes of maybe your audience, are those business owners, are those small business
Yeah.
owners, because I have products and solutions to help.
Okay. Awesome. So, how much time do you spend working on your business and not in your business?
Well, I do try to take a lot of time to work on it, but obviously there's always stuff to do, right? I become a lot better and more ruthless with my own time. I do use time management techniques, which I do, like Stephen Covey's time management matrix. If you heard of that sort of stuff really works. And that helps me to spend more time on rather than in. But I'm also constantly evolving, developing myself. I have a coach. I invest a lot of money in my coach. One thing I would say, if somebody says they're a coach, if I was somebody, well, in fact, when I am looking for a coach, one of the first questions I ask them is, do you have a coach? And
Yeah.
I feel much more confident if they say yes, because it doesn't matter how high you get to, there's always someone that either is even more experienced at a higher level that you want to get to. And even if it's not that, just sometimes being able to talk to someone else and be coached by someone else, even if they're similar level to you, you will still benefit. One by little.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're going to want the learning curve never ever stops. No matter where you are in your business, no matter where you are in your life, you're always learning something new, and you can always learn something from someone else's perspective, which is actually one of the reasons why I've made our own program is actually a lot of group stuff, because in that group thing, even though it's worldwide, that group stuff's really magical, because somebody from another country can pipe up and say something that I might not even think of and think, oh my God, it's so much better than what I thought of. That would be a brilliant idea. And the power of that is immense. So that's why I love working in groups, especially groups of people who are from completely different backgrounds and completely different corners of the earth, because they think differently. And when you get people like that in a room together, magic just absolutely happens. So it's just amazing. So if you had unlimited resources, what world problem would you solve?
Oh, that's a really good question. There's so many to solve, isn't there? So I don't think I'd want to just solve one. I think I'd want to solve like climate issues and
Just one.
inequality.
Just one.
I think what I would say for in making it relevant to what I do as well, with something I actually do support charities like this, is I would like to help people, or if I could have unlimited resources, really develop people's mental and emotional mastery. And that's from people who actually have serious sort of mental health challenges to people who I think the vast majority of people are walking around not in their sort of their supreme level of life. They're just meandering through life. And I think sometimes that's the more worrying or overlooked thing. Because everybody always look at, okay, help people who've got mental health issues. Let's help the poor. Which completely I agree with. And I support their charities. But sometimes people forget to help the average person who actually has some sort of low level depression or isn't living life.
I call it high functioning depression and anxiety,
Yes.
because I think a lot of people walk around today, and the pandemic changed a lot for everybody. We don't really know the actual mental impact on society just yet. we're going to find those details out in about 10 to 15 years. Because then we're only going to be able to see it in retrospect. It's everybody I talk to has got problems. It used to be problems before, but now it's just much bigger. And I think because of social media, because of the fast pace that we're working at, the kind of demands that jobs require, we're working 24 hours a day. We're not sleeping as well as we used to. We're constantly wired. We're constantly plugged in. So a lot of people aren't taking that kind of time out for themselves. And you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and that, and also even just the fact that I think people don't push themselves to their full potential because the two are, it's all the fears, fear of rejection, fear of not being good enough, fear of getting failure, fear of getting things wrong. Like I read it with my coaching, some of that, the byproduct of that is all those areas are improved. But if I could have unlimited resources, and it's what the direction I'm taking anyway, I'm doing some pretty exciting things where I'm going to go out to a lot more people and use technology more to help people in their sales and even their mindset. However, if you're the question, unlimited resources, if I could have Elon Musk level resources of wealth and everything like that right now, I would be like, yeah, let's do it so that we put it in education programs. We put it that you're wiring people from a young age, or even people who are already in their middle ages or old. You're changing the way they think about themselves, about life, about what's possible, because everybody plays it too small, right? I always say something which might sound controversial. I do believe this. I think people underestimate what they can do, their ability and what they can achieve. They probably overestimate how nice they are. I always think that. I think that a lot of the time, that's nothing to do with this question, but I do think that's just a general point that sometimes people don't realize we probably act out of selfish reasons more than we think, right? Yet we probably underestimate like what we can do and we can achieve. And I think that if we could put our focus and our energy and attention into what's possible and what we can do with ourselves, I think that not only will the world raise its standards and everyone will be more productive and humanity
absolutely.
have more problems, but I actually think things like depression and everything like that will go down because, sorry, it's just common sense. If you're more successful, if you're pushing yourself to a higher level and achieving more, naturally you start feeling better about yourself.
Well, it's dopamine hits constantly. It's constant dopamine hits. You're just going to feel better about yourself. I know this is completely off topic now, but I started salsa dancing because I wanted to keep learning something different. And it's one way for me to switch my brain off for a minute, or at least try to, because ADHD, you've got 5 brains. But I just try to switch it off. But do you know what? Every single class I come back thinking, oh my God, I've learned something new. This is amazing. And I feel so good about myself because I've had fun. I'm not stressed when I'm there. Nothing in the world matters for those 3 or 4 hours where I'm on that dance floor. Nothing else matters. Just whatever is right in front of me. And I'm vibing, and it's just such a lovely environment. And that has been such a natural antidepressant and anti-anxiety medicine for me that, to be honest, I would recommend it to everybody. Just go out and have some fun. And I think that's what we're missing a lot in life because people don't have fun anymore. We're working, we're wired, we're stressed, we've got deadlines, we're so focused on getting the next thing, doing this, doing that. And it's just go. And this is everywhere. But well, except the Caribbean, because Caribbean is absolute polar opposite. If they can do nothing all day, they actually would choose to do that. And if you ever go to the Caribbean, you'd know that they choose to do nothing. But I think they've got the right formula where it's such a nice paced life. And the rates of heart disease and stuff like that from stress, from food is a different topic, from stress related stuff is quite low because they're not stressed out people. And there's something really important to learn. They have fun. They learn to switch off. They learn to just throw the work away for a couple of days and just go and chill and go and party and go and have fun. So I think that's what we're really missing in life in general.
Yeah. And it's funny enough, actually, that was salsa is one of my things I'm going to be doing in 2024. So interesting enough.
Yeah.
I went to a class a few weeks ago and I was like, yeah, this is a lot of fun. I like this. I'm going to do this more. So that's interesting. Yeah. And everything you said, 100%. And even when everybody are playing a bigger game and you're performing and even things like jealousy, hating on other people, all that goes. Because I'm a big believer in one of the reasons why people have animosity, greed, jealousy, anger, hatred towards each other is because they're not very happy with themselves. And so when they see somebody else doing well, it's like almost it's like a torchlight is being shined on them. But if everybody could be playing their A game, I think it would solve so many other problems that you wouldn't even think that it would solve. So I know it was a bit of a long-winded answer, but I guess, yeah, if there was unlimited resources, there are lots of things I'd love to solve, but relevant to what I do as well. and the direction I'm taking, it just take me to another level without unlimited resources. So to help people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is actually an incredible answer. It's one of the better answers we've had so far. Anything to do with just switching off and having fun, I'm absolutely down for. So, what has been the hardest thing about entrepreneurship for you?
Oh, that's a really good question. And again, so many things. One thing, I was actually talking to someone the other day. Well, first of all, and I think a lot of people who listen to your podcast already are entrepreneurs, but it's not as sexy and glamorous as everybody think. It can be, and there are certain times, and there's a lot of times where it's just a lot of slog and hard work. But to be honest, that hasn't been the hardest thing because I'm fine with that. And I actually, in a weird way, I enjoy things more when I've had to work hard for them, and then I actually enjoy the rewards more. But I think what the hardest thing for me has been like knowing what to do next, especially at the beginning, right? And that's why having a coach has massively helped me. But sometimes it's like when you're in a job, there's a bit of direction you've got. Your company has the goal, the target. Your boss is saying, you work on this. And in a way, it makes things easier. You don't realize that, but you've got a direction to follow. Yes, because when you're an entrepreneur, you're like, well, should I work on developing my content? Should I work on making more sales? Should I, like, and you have to, having a coach really helps. Having the great thing, because I do coaching myself and I have a coach, it helps me answer these questions. But still, even then, it's sometimes like, what's the best option here to grow my business or to work with this client or work with these people or develop myself?
I actually can't say how many times I've said, I wish I could clone myself so I could tell myself what I need to be doing. I wish I can just have somebody do what I do for other people, do for me. Because to be honest, I have no sense of direction on this particular thing. And I'm like, I just want somebody to just give me a blueprint and tell me do step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, because I'm tired of thinking about it. And sometimes that can be really helpful.
That's why there's really a coach or mentor really does.
Absolutely.
They're not going to solve everything for you, but that's why I have a coach mentor myself, because it doesn't matter how skilled I am. Sometimes it's very hard. It's like to look at your mirror at yourself. You need someone else to hold it in front of you sometimes.
Yeah.
And
no, it's like branding yourself. Branding yourself is the hardest thing you will ever do because you're too close to the work. It's why I can do amazing branding on everybody else's stuff. And if you look at my stuff, some of it's disjointed. And it's because I've not actually hired somebody else to do it because I'm like, no, I'm a brand expert. I'm supposed to be able to do this myself. I've got this weird thing where this is an objective. This is a challenge that I need to overcome. I need to be able to become more objective about my own brand. So that's why I'm forcing myself out of that zone. But that's really challenging. You're absolutely right. Having a coach, having a mentor, having just someone else there, even if it's just somebody like a good business friend that just can bounce ideas off of, even that in the absence of having a coach, they are literally like one of the best things to happen. In the absence of that, even if you had somebody just bounce ideas off of where you can just work together and they could help you almost get out of your own head, that can even be beneficial in the interim until you can't afford to get a coach because some people can't afford it.
Exactly. And then sometimes you realize certain things about yourself. So for example, I'm very ambitious and I like to do things quickly and grow quickly, right? Now, sometimes actually I am on the right direction, but because of my personality, I'm like, but what if I could do X, which makes it even more exponential? And that's where you sometimes have to go, you're doing that thing again, right? You're doing that thing to yourself again. You go and find another direction, just keep sticking to that because you're getting shiny object syndrome.
Yeah. Again, I know I say it all the time. I swear to God, I'm like a poster child for ADHD at this point, but that is literally me because I'm like, oh, that's shiny, that's brand new. Let's do that instead. And it's like, no, it's like focus. Just the one thing, just the one. 6 months on the one. And then if you can just stick with it for 6 months, then maybe, and not add anything else to it, you'll be all right. And then you can add something else later on. And then by that point, the shiny object that you saw 6 months ago might not be so shiny anymore.
100%. 100%. And then the other thing, just to add to that as well, in terms of the hardest thing of being an entrepreneur, I'm a very self-motivated, self-driven person. On top of that, I've got lots of tools around motivation and drive because I help my clients do that. But still, we're still a person, right? And entrepreneurial is such a roller coaster of emotion where sometimes everything's going amazing and you think the world is going to be taken over by this time next year. And sometimes something you're really expecting to happen doesn't happen. It's just keeping, which I'm actually very good at, but still it's difficult. It's always remaining as positive and confident as possible because it's just the nature of being an entrepreneur. There are going to be ups and downs.
Positivity bubble.
Down to too much. too hard.
Literally is staying in that bubble, trying to, even though the world is crumbling outside of you, you're like, we got this, we can do this, we can do this is fine. The world can crumble, everything's going to shit, the whole thing's burning down, and you're like, I still got this, I can still do this. And I think that's hard to do.
It's very hard, but when you're working for a company as an employee, you've got a team you can talk to, you've got a manager you can talk to. When you're an entrepreneur, it's lonely. It's you.
Of course
Ultimately, I know I even said I've got coaches, everything like that, but still, ultimately, it's your baby. And it's you that has to go away, and you're going to feel those emotions. So they be the more, I think, ironically, the more difficult things around entrepreneurialism has been like managing those emotions and keeping your brain very focused and straight rather than going in different directions. Rather than being technical from an entrepreneurial level.
God, do you know what? The more you talk is the more I'm like, wow, you and I are so alike. It's unreal. We're almost on the same wavelength. I just do brand and you do sales. It's crazy because we're literally the same thing. I'm so glad I'm doing this podcast with you. I'm learning so much about you as well. It's really validating for me because all of the things I've got in my head, so it's not just me. That's great because there's somebody else who's thinking about this kind of stuff as well, which is amazing.
You know what? Actually, is a good, you just reminded me to actually talk about something because it's exactly what you said. I found that a lot of entrepreneurs are a little bit lonely. They haven't got people to bounce ideas off. What they could really do with in love is have a community of other like-minded entrepreneurs who are in similar positions as them.
Yes.
And so one thing I've set up is a sales mastermind, which basically it's going to be launched early next year. And it's going to be for entrepreneurs. I just want to select a few of but a decent number. So that this decent number to share ideas, hold each other's hands, share best practices, bounce ideas off, be part of the community. And also I see a lot of these people who create communities are like, no one can sell to each other. I'm like, what's the point of having this community then? I want people to be able to do business with each other, recommend to each other. So just from the community, it becomes like a sales ecosystem. And on top of that, these entrepreneurs need help with their sales skills and their sales strategies. So what will happen is being part of this is every week I'll be on coaching and training calls with them where we'd be developing different sales skills, negotiation, questioning, positioning, objection handling, all those types of skills.
One last thing, what would be your parting gift of wisdom for those in the audience?
Honestly, well, there's so many. It's two things. And I really say you have to learn how to sell or get your mindset around selling right and your skill set right selling. That's the number one thing you can do as an entrepreneur. It doesn't matter what product or service you have, and preferably get a coach or somebody who knows what they're doing to help you. All that will do, that will speed up your journey a lot quicker. You can do it on your own, but you'll be faffing around a lot longer and having a lot more hard time. That's what I really would say. If you do those two things, you're gonna fly.
Yeah. And how can people find you?
Sure. So I'm on LinkedIn and all social media. So Navin Jaitley, Navin Jaitly. I'm sure you put the details in.
Yes.
One thing I actually give away, if you email me, anyone's interested, they email me, Navin Jaitley Coaching at outlook.com. I'll send a free couple of gifts actually. One is in my document, which I created, which is around taking people from attention to interest to desire to action. And the other is some of the key principles of influence. So I'm happy to send that completely free. If anybody wants to connect with me and are interested in working with me or finding out more, of course, you can either send me a message over LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, or email that email address. And like I said, I am at the moment looking to fill places in that group coaching program, which is going to be so powerful, Desiree, because it's a community, you're learning sales skills, you're developing your mindset. And the idea is that within the 6 months that it's going to last for, you'll come out transformed in your sales. So that's actually what I'm actively doing at the moment. And look for people who are the right fit. So anybody who's interested in finding out more about that or anything else, drop me an email. And even if you're not interested in that and you just drop me an email, and I'll say, if you put in the title worksheets, I'll know that I should send you those two documents as well. If you want a strategy call, put worksheets and strategy call, I'll send you the worksheets and then we can have a call and discuss anything around what you need and what I offer.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You give so much value away as well. So I think it's really important for anybody who is listening, who wants to just up their game. It doesn't have to be that you have a business or you have a brand or anything like that. I think sales is something that can work really well, even if you have a career, because then you'll know how to negotiate your salary, negotiate new positions. And I think that is also a really important skill set to have. So even if you're listening and you don't have a business, absolutely hit up Navin and get some of those freebies as well, because they are unreal.